Of course, Dune Awakening is going to survive. It's a great game that I've now sunk hundreds of hours into, and I'm still addicted to crafting, building, and dying to ridiculous shenanigans in the deep desert. So I apologize if I baited you here with the title, because my aim for this video is to discuss systems that I think the game needs to help keep the gameplay loop of the end game engaging and rewarding. If you're new to my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So with that being said, here are some of the major points I'll be bringing up. We need some sort of true faction versus faction, either an instance region, a battleground, or something of the sort that allows us to actually fight house to house rather than just lands rod voting. I'd like to see more group content, be that scaling dungeons, instances, whatever it is that rewards players for grouping together. Deep desert content having more variety, both in its hazards and rewards, so you have the higher risk and higher rewards for doing things with a randomized weekly contract system. I think we really need some sort of arena or battleground system, something like a Getty Prime arena for varied 2v2 or 3v3 matches. Then a battleground that contributes to a global house versus house weekly score that helps level the playing field of the outnumbered faction, which is typically Harkonnen, depending on the server you are. Also, I want to see more variants, swatches, and also research permits that reward specific play styles. There's more nuance to a lot of this, with most of these points bleeding into each other, but that's a too long didn't watch of this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, and I tricked you here with the title, then please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. And if you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Last, you can find a link below to my other Dune videos, as well as my Twitch, where I'll be streaming this game, as well as a number of other ones. But let's get started on the improvements I'd like to see to Dune Awakening. And before we actually get started with this video, this is just a random shot here. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about is content that they have not said is coming. So I'm not going to be talking about a third faction. They said that's coming. I'm not going to be talking about things like lifts being added to the game. We already know those are confirmed additions that are being made to the game. Instead, what we're going to focus on in this video are things that they haven't said is coming, or improvements that maybe are coming down the line, but they haven't really eked them out to us. Because I don't think a lot of what we're going to talk about in this video is astoundingly unique. I think it's a lot of things that a lot of people want in varied ways. So that's my kind of disclaimer up front before we get into the meat and potatoes of who says that? Before we get to the bulk of this content, meat and potatoes is stupid. Okay, let's jump into our first topic. So one of the big hangups right now is the deep desert. That is your quote unquote end game for this game, because everything's done here. You're going to get your plastinium. Everything is done from this. You need your spice. All of it happens here. But I think that the deep desert could use a little bit of tweaking. For one, we have 3 entry points into the deep desert here, right? I think that putting at each one of these locations a hub would be nice. And I'm not saying like a big hub, but just some sort of outpost. You could have one be flavored neutral, one be flavored Harkonnen, one be flavored Atreides if you really want. It doesn't really matter. But the point here is to create an actual entry point in and out of the deep desert that makes a little bit more sense, other than just like loading in and your ornithopter's on the ground, so are you. Okay, that's kind of weird. But the point then of that would then to have a contract board that is in each one of these hub locations. It's the same contract board for all 3. And the contract board then tells you, hey, go to places. I discovered over here, right? Nope. This thing completely wiped a little bit ago. This was, whatever. Either way, go to research station number 43, and maybe it tells you a location for it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead because I'm not that smart. But something that is, hey, go to this down ship. Go claim this item from it. Just like you've gotten all the fetch quests you've had before as you were leveling up. Something that gives you a randomized target to go into certain things, and each sector that it is away from the parent, right? You go all the way back here and you go into the increased reward, either through monetary gains, through individual raw materials. Maybe it gives you plasteel plates, stuff like that, things you need to craft for the end game. So this way, you have a specific target and a way to get a little bit more out of that end game grind without specifically going to, okay, I'm just going to keep running this research station a bunch of times over and over and over and over and over. Hey, now instead, I can go do my 4 or 5 weekly deep desert quests that are separate, obviously, from, you know, the Land's Rod that everyone's spending a lot of time on. And I can go ahead and try and get some gain there. I think that'd be a really great idea. And, you know, you just file it into your journey system into this region over here. Now, in addition to that, I would like to see some form of maybe a bounty board too, to help discourage a level of griefer. Now, a bounty board, though, has to have some sort of system in place that can't be exploited. Like, you can't just say, hey, the bounty board exists, you killed someone, and now you've racked up your bounty. Cool, the bounty board exists, I racked up my bounty, awesome. I'm gonna have my friend kill me and we're gonna split the bounty. Well, that's not gonna work so well. So maybe if there was some sort of system that prevented you from actually going back into Haga Basin if you racked up a certain amount, if you killed enough things, stuff like that. Like, there needs to be PvP, and I think PvP needs to happen in this game, but there has to be some way to choose, like, okay, this is a griefing style of PvP, we need to punish it, and the game can that way the players can correct against it. But so that is a really harebrained idea. It needs better fleshing out, because how does the system determine what's a grief kill and what's a normal PvP kill? So I think that, again, it needs a better system. But furthermore from there, I think this allows you to have a little bit of control that is all done from these hubs down here, and it creates an entry point rather than having to make a base for all of it. So in the deep desert, we have all of these grids, right? Sector E7, E6, D6, all of them are here. And by and large, you can see that, like, maybe sometimes I'll go scan a zone. If this is my hub, I'm just leaving from my base. I'm just going in a straight line as much as I can. And that's good and all, but I think it kind of removes some of the spice. Man, stupid joke. But some of the fun. And I think what would be really great here in the deep desert is if there were weekly randomized hazards that would force you to the ground, or you had to fly around them, or maybe it's, and I know the lore of this world of the video game is different than the lore of the actual game, but I'm just throwing out spitball ideas here. Maybe there's a Sardaukar patrol. There's a Fremen activity, something like that, where they're using rockets to shoot you down. So it forces you onto the ground to actually engage them or fight them. Or, hey, here's a localized sandstorm in C6. Cool. Well, you can't fly through C6 anymore because it's just going to completely destroy your Ornithopter. You have to land, and the sandstorm is higher up. Whatever. I'm just throwing things here. You either completely avoid the sector, or you have to go around it. Or things that, again, force you to do more buggy gameplay, stuff like that. And of course, you know, with buggy gameplay, it's not like you're going to go from B6 to C6 on a buggy. It's just suicide. So there needs to be some sort of balance to it. Because right now, you know, there's no real reason to use a rocket launcher on your buggy. It's just pretty much going to be there for hauling. So using some sort of randomized thing, hey, today or this week, all of D5 is quicksand. So don't land there, period, at all. But D5 is also where the titanium is. So you have to find the rock outcroppings to land. You have to be kind of strategic about it. You can't go too far to go harvest things. You might fall into the quicksand. Something that makes it and breaks up what is essentially just moving from grid to grid to find the things that we all go to the planetologist.app to find, and then go back and forth. Something where the game wants to shoot you down, or something like that. Now, of course, with that, we would need some sort of addition of flares, because otherwise you just get locked on and you're dead. But again, something that allows for random chaos in the deep desert that is not player driven, but is NPC driven, that then creates better player or different player interaction. But one of my last points here on the deep desert, I think would be fun for PvPvE raids of some sort. Something that is geared towards true large format style of play. Now, maybe this is a Harkonnen base that the NPCs have created, an Atreides base, something that has multiple yield of high value research materials, that is worth it to go in a large group to fight the large amount of enemies there, and it's worth it for you as an opposing player to go raid them. And this wouldn't be faction versus faction related. We'll talk about that in a second. This would more be geared towards fighting as a group of, I think, well, I don't know the max for the party. Is that your max party right there? 1, 2, 3 slots. Let's say the raid group then is like 10 slots, and it's just 10v10, and it's completely random, right? Like you don't know if someone's gonna raid you. Oh, it's 4. Someone said in chat. I'm live streaming right now while I record this. So it's 4v4, and you don't know if someone's gonna raid you. You don't know if they're not. It's maybe you fight and die to the NPCs, whatever it is. Something that really requires you to group up, go out together, and there's a high risk, high reward for it. Because oh man, we got a bunch of research schematics. We got a lot of resource yield, whatever it is. But some sort of raid style system that allows for a fun gameplay loop that is either very deep desert, because you are rolling in a group of 4, and there is that PvP element to it and the PvE element to it, so you have that stacking against you, and it gives you that really fun gameplay loop to chase after as you hit that max point in the game. Now, this point is something that I think extends to nearly everything we're going to talk about. Either the PvP I'm going to talk about, the faction versus faction I'm going to talk about, the commission board, the bounty board, all these things I think could then be given the reward of additional variants, additional swatches. These things I think could be really fun to tap into, because I think right now the game is bare bones when it comes to the offering of a lot of these variants and swatches, which is fine, right? The game just came out. Obviously, we have a ton of stuff to become that's coming in the future. We know there's a ton of DLC planned. So this might be kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, obviously. But to have the variant here on the Jolt sword, you know, like, give me different variants to this, different hilts, different quillins, different blade style, right? Something that I can get a little bit more customization out of for each and every one of these. And that's a reward from any of the systems that I bring up in this video. But more variants in a lot of different ways, I think would be key. In addition to that, research variants. So let's talk about that. So research variants, we have a little bit of variety, right? Like take a look here at the scrubber. This is the semi-automatic heavy dart rifle. This is the burst light dart rifle. So there's a little bit of difference there. And I like that. I like that I can use what is effectively the same weapon type, a rifle, in 2 different ways. That's cool. And we have that for a bunch of different stuff, right? A bunch of different pistols are like that, so on and so forth. And armor is kind of like that, but not really. So what I would like to see is more unique schematics that allow for different variations and different playstyle favoring. Because right now, like, let's just look at armor as a whole. I think these 2 are good examples. The Syndicate helmet here, it's a light armor piece, but it has energy mitigation, blade is always there, fire mitigation and poison mitigation. Oh, wow. Ooh. And then this one, scanner range. Okay. That doesn't really play into a play style. Give me stuff for weapons and armor that plays into specific things that then handshakes with each other. Cool. I want to use this. Let me maybe use some I actually have. Here, this. A long blade. Cool. Let me wear the armor that gives me bonus long blade damage. Let me wear the armor that gives me bonus short blade damage or bonus rifle damage. Maybe this helmet gives me like a better optics on my guns. I'm throwing things out there, but I think right now the variety when it comes to schematics is very bland, right? Like we all know in Plastinium, everyone hunts for pincushion because it's really good light armor because it has heavy and light dart damage mitigation. Cool, great, hunting for that. I don't really give a crap about this one, because it's the same thing, right? It's dash stamina cost is better, and it's got, I think it's got better heat protection and more armor value, of course. But my point is, you kind of end up always, the variety that's there isn't very varied, because you end up just kind of going for the one that actually has pertinent in-game benefits for you. I'd rather have, okay, well, if you're going to be a short blade user that's really trying to stick to melee, you're going to want to use this armor set because it gives you damage to short blade or damage to bonuses to this or that, or these short blades that have better lean-ins to the armor style you're on. Stuff like that, where the varied schematics actually have varied differences and benefits. Like, okay, we have the albatross wings. Do I have? I haven't used them because they say they're right there. And they say, hey, you can use these, but they don't have, they have reduced maneuverability. Well, give me the opposite then. Give me one that's got increased maneuverability, but reduced speed. You know, like, let me have more variety for these research schematics. So this is the Haga Basin. We all know it well. And what I would love to see attached to this, either right here or over here, would maybe be some sort of faction versus faction area. A place that is strictly Atreides versus Harkonnen. And I've got a number of ways that this can be implemented, because I think the biggest problem with it is that by and large, most servers, Atreides outnumber the Harkonnen. So these locations, either you need to queue into them like a battleground of some sort. They have clustered instances where it's like, okay, you fly into it, it adds you into an instance and then places you into it, so that it's a set 20 versus 20 or 40 versus 40, whatever it is. And then within this region, this would play like a planet side, where you've got maybe a Harko base up here and an Atreides base down here, and you're capturing points towards them. And as you win the location, you then win the, like, so you score points maybe against some death cards, whatever it is, like a battlefield, like a Battlefield 2 or 1942 or Star Wars Battlefront, anything like that. And once you win the overall battleground, it contributes towards not a card, because right, you claim these cards on the Landsrod, but rather than a Landsrod card that's claimable for your great house, it's just a card that shows you, hey, here's your contribution. And that contribution is marked solely by killing either Harkonnen or Atreides players and or capturing points. And then you've got weekly resets just like this that awards you money, rewards you research schematics, raw materials, stuff like that. So hey, I'm going to go do, basically, if you want to think of it from a WoW perspective, my weekly battleground quests by knocking out my great house's respective PvP targets in either the battleground or in just the deep desert or a faction versus faction area, which then brings me into another point. So I think if we have all that kind of system for faction versus faction, there needs to be, and even outside of a faction versus faction system, some sort of reward for PvP style of play. And I think that should 100% be a thing. It just needs to, again, right now we deal a lot with a good deal of griefing. So people are going to grief you for those rewards. So it needs to have some sort of checks and balances within that system. So I realize those things, but maybe it is just linked solely to a faction versus faction system. And I think, again, that's fine. But having some sort of cosmetic reward that's linked to, like, okay, hey, we've got the Wayfinder helmet here. Here's my Harkonnen Scout helmet. Well, maybe you're a Harko and now get a Harkonnen Royal Guard, or I'm just throwing blanket terms here. I don't know the lore enough to actually give you a true term. Like a Harko Royal helmet, or an Atreides Royal Guard helmet, something like that, like the armor from the first Dune movie. Something that says, like, hey, I've busted my ass in the Battlegrounds enough to get the swatches and the variants of the armor, of the weapons from the faction versus faction gameplay. So that gives you that little bit of reward so you can just keep doing it. And on that note too, maybe it's something like an additional column down here that's like service medals that shows like a relative rank, like, hey, I've done X amount and I've reached a certain achievement bank based off of something in like your journey, where it's like one of these, right? Where it's like, this is the Assassin's Handbook. Maybe it's something like, oh, you've got the War of Assassins on here, or your Great House progression, something like that, where you can get these physical things that show on your character as like a, hey, look, this guy's a badass, he's gotten that service medal, whatever it is. Social hubs are something that are always really interesting in these games, because sometimes you're forced there, right? Like by quests and other things. But I think having a social hub have a lot of life between Arrakeen and Harko is really good for the immersion, the presentation of the game, making it feel like a fun thing. So with that, I would love to see instances like dungeons that you can go into accessible from the social hubs. Now let's bring the HUD back up by pressing the right button. Maybe it's like over here, or it's a terminal over here where you access it and you have to have an official Imperial permitted ornithopter fly you there, whatever it is. And what this does here is it gives us the ability to do instanced dungeons, which is increased group content. I think we need way more group content in the game, because group content, I think, is fun, but have that group content, that instance, scale. So if you want to go do those instance dungeons solo, by all means do it. If you want to do it with your max party of 4, then by all means do it. What the problem is that you'll go to do a dungeon like, oh, I want to go get some resources there. And yeah, you'll be able to completely loot the dungeon. That's great because someone killed their way in front of you, but it takes away the fun of being able to do the dungeon and fight stuff. So I think having a much longer dungeon that's like a 15-minute slog where you go in and you have to kind of really ration out your inventory and not just pick everything up, and you have to split it amongst your friends. Okay, I'm at max capacity, you pick up now. I'm at max capacity, you pick up now, rather than just, hey, I've picked up, I'm gonna go drop it in my Ornithopter and keep going. This, I think, would be a really fun way to do these things because you just kind of have that, not necessarily risk reward, but you have to manage time and what have you. Maybe it is on a timer, and you can do different difficulties. I wanna say like Destiny, but what I don't want is a LFG dungeon finder system. I think it breaks down a lot of the fun social aspects of a lot of these video games. So with that being said, let me press enter here and let me just have an LFG tab. So I can just go ahead and start typing in, looking for group, instance, deep desert research station 44. I don't know, I'm blanket terms here. So this allows you to do something that is group content related, is social related. It's got dungeon instances, so you don't have to worry about having someone completely already having scrubbed through the place before and you're just picking up the scraps. And it has a way to do it that is socially interactive with this. Or you never have to tap into it. You can just use do it with your guild. You can do it with just your friends, and it scales to the amount of people in your group. This style of accessing and using social hubs, I think, is cool because then you have a lot of people that are just going to be sitting around here AFK while doing a little bit of looking for group. Maybe they're going over to the Chome Exchange to sell things and buy things. I think it creates an actual lively social hub because this is the way that you actually interact with those instance dungeons versus just flying to it on the map, going to it, and just being done with it. Go access it from a terminal, use the actual taxi service, whatever, and have it be free, right? Like having to pay to go access the dungeon would really piss me off. But I think this is a really great way to tap into that. Now, we've talked so much about PvP. We've talked so much about faction versus faction. Now, I would love to see some way to bring that all together in an arena system that's maybe it's solo 1v1, it's twos, so, 2v2 or 3v3, like a Getty Prime style of arena. And it's like Harco themed. It doesn't necessarily need to be Harco themed from an actual reward basis, but it's another way to contribute to that really cool idea I had. Because I'm so important, but that really interesting concept I had of having the great houses have their own contribution. Is that an upside down table right there? Having the great houses have their own contribution to like a reward system for PvP. That way you can tap into like that arena, that battleground, maybe that instance thing, like I said before, that's attached to Haga Basin. Rather than it being doing that, it's an actual instance dungeon that's 20 versus 20. Because this, again, we have a problem right now where we have 1,000,000 to 1 Harco versus Atreides or Atreides versus Harco. It's almost always Atreides versus Harco, right? And because of that, you can't just have it be open faction versus faction. Harco will always get their asses kicked because there's just going to be so many Atreides. And I think if you force it into a format that is a set number versus a set number, it levels the playing field for something that is not self-correcting right now, right? There's no reason to swap and betray another faction until the third faction we know is comes. So I think the arena and battleground is a great way to tap into that. I think it's a fun way to just, if you want to be a sweaty PvP Lord of the Underdark, you can just go do it in any of these systems that then directly rewards you for them. Especially like an arena system, right? Like if you're a WoW veteran and you were trying to do ranked arena, it's a very fun, sweaty system that's high octane and it's really cool. And it's completely removed from your PvE experience. So I think having that would be a great way to leverage that faction versus faction and also create a very controlled PvP scenario that isn't just ornithopters slamming into you, people shooting you out of the sky, or people otherwise abusing and or using exploits. Here we are in the Chome Exchange. And I think another play style that is big in this game, outside of PvE content, meaning you're fighting monsters, outside of PvP content, you're fighting players, is building and crafting. And I'd really like to see a commission system that is linked to that. Hey, here at the Chome Exchange, we have a crafting set of journeys or board. You go up to that Chome Exchange board, you access it, and it's got go create X amount of weapons for me, or go create this entire suit of armor for me. And the reward is maybe progress towards the Chome progress board. Like, again, I'll bring this up. Not a Chome card on here, but something of the sort, right? Where you've got a Chome faction or a Chome reputation, and you're building towards it to get swatches, variants, maybe entire building, like a Chome building variant that is linked to doing the crafting commissions. So people that really want to be crafters can go do that. So if you can tell here, I'm trying to create something where if you're heavy into PvP, here's an entire reward system that plays how you want to play. If you're heavy into the crafting, here's an entire reward system that plays how you want to play. If you like PvE, here's group content with instance dungeons that rewards you with swatches and stuff like that that are unique to your play style. So I think right now, the only rewarding playstyle truly is PvE. Then PvP is used to gate other people from expanding their PvE content, right? PvP is more used at resource denial and less at actual, like, cool, let me have a good 3-on-3 fight, or like let me get sweaty with this one over here. It's more just, let me kill someone who's trying to harvest. So I think trying to not necessarily silo those things, but reward proper integration of those, I think helps create some sort of self-correcting system. I don't know. I'm kind of talking out of my ass. We got one last note here to go into. I lied. This is my second to last tip. So right here, you see this thing? I think this is like an Atreides battleship. I don't know. I want there to be more like NPC interaction with stuff like this. You have the Sardaukar patrols that fly around the Haga Basin. Give me a reason to get into like an NPC Ornithopter rocket fight in this location. Let me breach these things. Let me fight these things. Let me go through them. And it's just its own quick little dash of something. And do the same thing. It's a rite of salvage, right? So have everyone jump in there. It can be a PvP zone within the deep desert. I think having those carriers do something would be a lot of fun, or let me go and directly attack the Sardaukar patrols. I think that'd be a really awesome way to just add a little bit of spice, because right now Ornithopter play is strictly PvP, right? It would make that world feel a lot more alive. And maybe too, I can use my buggy with rockets on it to shoot a Sardaukar patrol to bring it down to fight me. So I think that allowing that to give me maybe there's spice melange on those ships. Maybe there's plastinium on those ships. So it's more of an end game thing, but it's something to do in Haga Basin that is geared towards that style of reward for the end game. So here it is, my last tip. Or I don't know why I call it a tip, my last request, I guess. This is my base. I love it. It's cool. It's awesome. It's probably the best base that's ever been made in the history of Dune. Please don't show me your base. It's probably way cooler than mine. But I would love a follower system. If you've played Conan Exiles, you know that there is a follower system that allows you to press gang people into becoming your followers, right? And I'd love to see that brought to life in this game. Something where it's faction locked in the sense that, okay, Harkonnen would have slaves, Atreides maybe have recruits or liberated slaves, whatever it is, but they're followers that are in your base. And these people then are locked to the amount that you can have based off of your rank right now, right? So right now it says you're a contractor, I think, at this rank. Well, this is not going to pop up, huh? Well, oh yeah, house operator, there it is. That's your rank. Okay, so at maybe 5, you only get maybe like 2 people. I don't know, I'm blanket terms here. Maybe it's only 3. Maybe it is a full 5, whatever it is. And they go around your base, they're on patrol, so the base feels more alive. Because these bases can get huge. And it's like, who's using this? No one's using this. I can't use this. No one's using these things. At least the NPCs can look like they're doing it. Or they can like stand in front of any of these things and make it look like something's going on. So there's a little bit more life in these bases. I would love to see that. But furthermore, it could have an actual practical thing in the game. Because Conan Exiles, you did try to find really good followers. You try to find ones that had specific benefits for you that would then give benefits to the crafting stations. So an NPC system in this game that allowed me to leverage something. Maybe it's an Atreides swordmaster that I've just hired. Cool. Now I can go use that as almost like a mercenary system for the instance dungeons I spoke about 2 or 3 points ago, right? Where I put them in my group, quote unquote, and I say like, hey, follow me. And I load them into an assault ornithopter or a transport or whatever. Again, I'm just spitballing. And then we go to the social hub and go to a dungeon together, and I can scale the dungeon as a solo player. That'd be sick. Or some way to use these in faction versus faction play, or whatever kind of way to just have this feel alive. Now, maybe too, they can do menial work for you. Like, hey, you can get a Bene Gesserit, you can get a Mentat, you can get a Trooper, but maybe you can also just get a menial, and that menial can't do anything other than base tasks. It can go swap generator fuel in, go put like fuel into your generators, lubricant into any of your generators. It can go swap corpses into any of these for you, and it increases your tax rate or something where it can do small little things that you don't have to manually do all the time, but create some better flow throughout your base. Because that's what it was like in Conan Exiles. You would try to get specific, like, oh, I want the blacksmith to exist as the blacksmith to make all my blacksmithing better, or the tailor, you know, the same sort of delineation. But having a follower system that allows you to tap into a very specific play style or a very specific reward system. So at that, it brings our video here to a close. We've covered a lot of different subjects, and I know a lot of this isn't very fleshed out. I'm not a developer. I'm just some dude who's played the game a lot and would love to see a little bit of automation, a little bit of customization, a little bit of depth into a lot of the existing systems. I think Dune Awakening is a badass game. It's probably my favorite survival game since V Rising, and I think that it has amazing bones. And with those amazing bones, it's telling me that the future of this game is awesome. If you've seen how the support has rolled out for Conan Exiles, you've seen how there's been so many better or awesome improvements to the game. You can now use magic in Conan Exiles. So there's a lot of stuff that I can see Funcom is going to bring in, especially when you just look at the world map. The world map is huge, and we are only at like 4 spots of it. And there's the whole southern pole that we haven't even talked about or looked about, because it's filled with Fremen, or I don't know what it's like in this universe, but still. So I'm excited for the future of this game. I don't think it's dead. I think it's bumping. I think the big hang points are how the deep desert really feels, how they strike a balance between the PvP player and the PvE player, how they strike a balance between people that are just jumping into hard metas, like locking on missile launchers and doing exploits and really kind of griefy things. There's those growing pains that are going to be prevalent because this is the very beginning steps of a game. But I'm also very excited for what this future can bring and all the things that are coming to it. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below some things that you would like to see added to the game, some things that you have already seen but you'd like to see tweaked, or maybe, hey, you know what, I've stopped playing because this one thing pisses me off. Whatever it is, let it be known in the comment section below. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.